don't panic. Video will be back in about 3 to 4 days. I don't have my camera with me, but I still want to make videos, so video will be back soon. But for now, it's just going to be images. But anyways, Alex Jones. We talked about him yesterday because he had uncovered, or he didn't uncover, but someone sent him these videos of these, bad videos of Joe Rogan, where Joe Rogan says some pretty, messed up stuff, where he says that, he walked into the Planet of the Apes, which is describing an all-black neighborhood that he had entered. And there was also another clip that I don't think he showed, but I saw it on Twitter, where he says that, a black and white combination is the best because you get the black body and then you get the white brain, which of course is a heavy implication that, there's superiority on either of those sides. So it really was not a good look for Joe Rogan there, but doesn't look like it's gained much traction in terms of the Joe Rogan clips. But Alex Jones decided to go after Joe Rogan again, pressing him even further on this issue. Now, I'm going to show you guys this clip. This is getting a little bit fucked up, like a lot fucked up, actually, I should say. He's going to show pictures of who I believe is his Joe Rogan's stepdaughter, who's black. So he's going to go on to basically say, oh, I wonder how she feels about it. How does she feel about it, about Joe saying that kind of stuff. And it just gets kind of scummy because it's like you're obviously kind of utilizing her as this sort of weapon, which is it's pretty disgusting, especially from the point of view of her. But anyways, go ahead and check this out, and then we'll come back.
My old friend of 20 years, met him in 1998, Joe Rogan, is a very private guy. And yesterday I played this shocking clip we're about to get to of him a few years ago on the podcast before he moved into his new studios, I guess 5-6 years ago, saying that, I'm not saying this is Joe Rogan said it, that black people are apes and that their neighborhoods are Planet of the Apes. And when I saw that, I'm like, wait a minute. Joe Rogan is married to the very beautiful daughter of a famous comedian. And he has 2 biological children with her, 2 daughters. I have 3 daughters and a son, so I empathize. And then, he's got a adopted black daughter who he loves and is very beautiful, by the way. Looks like a supermodel. And so, in fact, we can scroll through some of the photos. So, my issue here, that's Joe Rogan's daughter. She's like 20. Go through some more of the photos. So, my issue here is, if governor of Virginia, they're saying resign over being in blackface, which I don't think he should have to. I think it's distasteful. I've never done it. But if somebody says, hey, it's 30 years ago, 25 years ago, it's a yearbook, I'll buy it. But see, he's a leftist who said that other people that did stuff like that should resign as well. So now we're going to go by your yardstick. So Joe Rogan sits up there on this high horse that, I'm this big bad guy because I questioned Sandy Hook when they're admitting chemical attacks on children were fake in the BBC today. And so many other cases. I mean, we should question everything. But he's on this high horse. What does his daughter, I want to call her black, white, just a beautiful young lady. What does she call it when her stepfather says that black people are apes and that they're Planet of the Apes? And again, Joe's the one up there pontificating up on this royal high horse about how good he is and how great he is. Yeah, there's Joe's daughter. So yesterday I noticed the comments because I went and checked the comments on the video last night on Infowars.com and Newswars.com, and some were like, oh, Jones, don't say he's not a racist. He doesn't have a black daughter. Why? You don't know that. So I spent like 20 minutes this morning searching. I found it. And once I did, I found the Facebook, the Instagram, all of it. And it's just crazy. So here's how this works. You defend the establishment. We then judge you by the establishment's gauge. I don't think Joe's done anything wrong. I get his joke because Joe says we're all simian in a way, which we are. So he's not actually doing that. But according to your gods of Silicon Valley and your whole measurement system, dude, you're a really bad person that shouldn't be on the air. I'm not saying take you off the air. I'm just saying, Joe, I've got 6 more rounds in the cylinder of stuff just as bad or worse. And like I told you, I'm going to start laying it out every couple of days, another one. Because you judge me, I'm going to judge you. Here's the clip I'm talking about, him on the podcast, talking about blacks being apes.
Planet of the Apes, man. We're going to go see Planet of the Apes. So I look on the iPhone app, and it says, okay, take me to this one. And the guy goes, okay. I go, is that in a good neighborhood? He's like, oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out, and we're giggling. Oh, we're going to go see Planet of the Apes. We walk into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door, and there was no white people. There was no white people.
So Joe Rogan is saying that, and Red Band laughs, and Joey Diaz stays out of it. I mean, can you imagine if I said black people are apes? But, oh, Joe Rogan, 24 hours in, no coverage, it's okay. Here's Joe talking about going to see Planet of the Apes movie, and then he gets in a black neighborhood. Well, just hear it for yourself. Here it is.
There's Planet of the Apes, man. We're going to go see Planet of the Apes. So I look on the iPhone app, and it says, okay, take me to this one. And the guy goes, okay. I go, is that in a good neighborhood? He's like, oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out, and we're giggling. Oh, we're going to go see Planet of the Apes. We walk into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door, and there was no white people. There was no white people.
Joe Rogan just said black people are apes. Well, I guess, what's the in-between size? Mesomorphs, like we got big muscles, we're like, got big torsos, short legs. I mean, there's some black people, like Joe's saying, look like me and look like an ape. There's some that are super tall and don't. The point is there's white people look like that because we are simian. But the point is that you can't sit there and say, I went to a black neighborhood on my iPhone app and I was in Planet of the Apes saying black people are apes. Joe Rogan just said black people are apes, just like Watson, the former head of the Cold Springs Harbor Group, said blacks aren't human, they're apes. Well, if they're apes, then how can we breed with them, Joe? And are you saying your daughter is an ape? Hey, man, it's you up on your sanctimonious high horse here, bro. Quite frankly, I am like an ape. I can pull somebody's head off. I've got ape-like strength. I beat some big old black guys' asses, too, thought they could kick my ass. They found out who the real ape was. I'm King Kong, baby. I'm not ashamed of my simian nature. But you can't sit there and pull crap like that and say crap like that in a glass house and basically, I mean, you heard him. Geez. Snake Farm. Just damn nasty. So there you go. Joe Rogan says black people look like apes and black neighborhoods are Planet of the Apes. You heard it. You know, species, on these bell curves they do. That doesn't mean that on average, white people, or Japanese are right up there, have the highest IQ. It doesn't mean there aren't black people that are up there too. It means on average, there are more Japanese and more whites that are on that curve. And people can say, well, or Russians or whoever you want to say. You can sit there and say, well, that's the test. It doesn't matter. Where are people making spaceships and computers? It's in the West. But that isn't meaning then we hate black people, because there are black people statistically that are as smart as anybody on the planet. It means on average, whites have the highest IQ. On average. Well, you better have an IQ if you were spending hundreds of thousands of years in frozen wasteland at the top of the planet, because if you went to bed, if you got back in your cave 10 minutes too late, you were deader than a doornail. In Africa and other areas in the equatorial regions, it was about how strong you were, how fast you were, how cunning you were, not about long-term strategic thinking. So when I sit here and I criticize Joe for calling black people apes, dude, we are apes. And I know you know that. It doesn't mean we're not divine and God made us in the image. There's other things. The point is that you get away with that when it's not even accurate and people don't call you on that. But at the same time, then, let's not hate white people. Let's thank white people for electricity and airplanes and medicine. InfoWars is a torch to light the way. There's fear of the leftists and the globalists. You'll be censored if you don't lay down to them. The real fear is laying down and what comes after. All right. I don't want to attack my old friend of 21 years, Joe Rogan. But in the last decade or so, we grew apart. I didn't go to UFC matches, didn't go to most of his comedy shows, didn't hang out with him 4 or 5 times a year like I'd done since 1998. I might see him once a year. He might call me a few times a year. I might call him a few times a year. And then my listeners told me, why are you saying Joe's a good guy? He's having all these globalists on, these CIA people on. He's pushing censorship. And then I got sued for Sandy Hook. Because my listeners questioned the official story. The internet did. I looked at it and said, I could see how folks think it's staged. There's some anomalies, but
yeah, so if you ask me, man, those are some pretty low blows that Alex Jones is doing right there. I mean, I really don't find it to be classy or legitimate. Well, I mean, we're talking about Alex Jones here. Who are we kidding? But showing, pictures of Joe Rogan's stepdaughter to kind of, weaponize her in a way. Well, I mean, that's literally what he's trying to do, is to sort of, use her against Joe Rogan and saying, oh, look at these comments that Joe made, how would you feel about it being black? And, the pretty much what were messed up comments from Joe Rogan. And what Alex Jones he's attempting to say this, and I don't know if it's, really what's going on in the man's head because the dude's a total and utter lunatic. But what he's essentially saying is, hey, I'm just steel manning you. What he's saying is, I don't think you should be taken off the air. But due to the environment that you're in, or just, outright of what Joe Rogan said, which I haven't really seen him advocate the ban of Alex Jones or anything like that. But what he's trying to say is, I don't want you to be taken off the air, but if you're going to play by the rules and live in the environment of the, leftists who are just taking everyone down for these comments, I'm going to show these and attempt to get you taken off and see how you like it. And I think a direct quote is like, how do you like it, Joe? Or so how does it feel, or something like that. So, I mean, he's just obviously out and out about it at this point. He's just outright trying to get Joe Rogan, kicked off. Now, the question is, I don't know if his actual goal is to get him taken down. I don't know what else, the goal could be, because just think about doing something like that, you'd have to imagine that there's a possibility for that. And if you're going to do that, you'd have to have some sort of a motivation and a goal to take down Joe Rogan, because effectively what you're doing there is you're in a situation where you are doing this sort of attempted takedown of his career. And again, like I mentioned in my other video that I did yesterday about Alex Jones going after Joe Rogan, these kinds of attacks are the lowest of the low, and they are the harshest and the sort of strongest things you can do against somebody who's any form of public persona, because what you're attempting to do is you're attempting to take him down. You're not going on your show and saying Joe Rogan is a dummy, or Joe Rogan is stupid, or Joe Rogan is a prick, or something like that, or a bitch, or whatever. You're not even doing that. It's much, much worse to go on there and try to find clips that will get him taken down. And that's what he's doing, which means that, Alex Jones is clearly really, really hurt, okay? He's really, really, angry. He's really, really pissed. And we've seen that, by the way. I mean, it's been sort of a process of him, just going down, I'm trying to think of the right word degenerating is the word I'm looking for. He just kind of degenerated into, he started out, in the Sargon Joe Rogan video or whatever the fuck, where he's saying that they're going after him and whatnot, and he goes, oh, but it's mostly this Sarkod guy. But then as time went on, he continuously got more pissed pissed and more pissed and more pissed. And, you know, as we saw recently, I mean, he's just full-fledged out, like in war now with Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan hasn't responded to the video clips that have been released yet because they simply haven't gained much traction. I mean, they're barely even on Twitter. They barely have gained any circulation. Certainly surprised that Black Twitter hasn't jumped on this, but I think Joe Rogan has a lot of support, so I don't really think that I really highly doubt that anything is even going to actually come of this whole thing. But, you know, I don't know what's going to come of this. I think for sure, and I'd be really surprised at this point, if Joe Rogan and Alex Jones were to somehow mend their friendship and become friends again, and Joe would be to have Alex Jones back on his podcast, I honestly would be surprised because, like I said, man, you don't really understand how important it is to someone in a public persona about their reputation. So when you try to take down someone's career, you're not shit-talking them. You're not calling them a dummy. You're trying to take them off the air. You're trying to take them down. You know, he wants to have these things where, okay, now Joe Rogan's going to get deplatformed the same way that Alex Jones was. That's his goal that is set in mind here. That's what he's trying to do. That's what Alex Jones's goal is right now. Which is really crazy. I don't know if they're going to be friends anymore. I mean, certainly the comments that Joe made were very problematic and pretty, like, you know, cringy and sketchy, but I think that they were said a long time ago. I mean, I'd like to hear an explanation as to why he said those things anyways, because it's not like this is some shit from, like, the 1970s or something. It was like 5 or 6 years ago. And to think that, you know, I can't remember what year it was exactly, but couldn't have been longer than between 5 and 10 years. And I mean, you know, saying that, you know, I don't know, walking into Planet of the Apes in a black neighborhood and saying that, you know, or heavily implying, I should say, that a white brain is superior or better to that of a black brain. It's just, you know, it's problematic to say the least. But I don't know what's going to come of this in terms of, you know, for Joe Rogan. I also, and I actually said this a couple of, you know, videos about this ago where I said, you know, it's probably isn't going to be the last time I cover this. It's not going to be the last time I cover this. I mean, this is going to continue going on. Alex Jones will continue lobbying, you know, just going after Joe Rogan, and we'll see how this ends up. Let me know your thoughts on what Alex is doing, you know, Joe Rogan's statements. Let me know about all that down below.